There are moments, rare, unmistakable moments, when something inside you pauses without explanation. You could be scrolling, distracted, thinking about something completely unrelated, and suddenly, something pulls your attention. Not loudly, not forcefully, but with a quiet authority that you cannot ignore. This is one of those moments. This is not coincidence. This is not random timing. This is not just another message passing through your day. No, this is a divine interruption. And you feel it, don't you? There's a subtle shift happening in your spirit right now. A strange stillness, almost like the world around you has softened just enough for you to hear something deeper. Something beyond noise. Something beyond logic. And that feeling, the one you can't quite explain, that is not confusion, that is recognition. Because a part of you already knows this message is about you. There has been a question lingering in your heart lately. Maybe you didn't even put it into words. Maybe it showed up as a feeling instead. A quiet wondering, a subtle tension, an unspoken curiosity. Something about how people see you now. Something about how certain energy around you has changed. You noticed it in conversations, in the way someone responds to you differently, in the way silence now feels heavier than words, and you tried to brush it off. You told yourself, it's nothing. You told yourself, I'm probably overthinking. But deep down you knew something had shifted. And now, Archangel Michael steps forward, not gently, not vaguely, but with clarity that cuts through every doubt. He does not arrive with confusion. He arrives with truth. And his presence right now is not symbolic, it is intentional. He's revealing this to you because the shift you've been sensing is real. Someone who once doubted you. Someone who questioned your worth, your direction, your potential, is now seeing you through completely different eyes. But here is where the weight of this moment deepens, because while their perception has changed, their silence remains. And that silence, it is not empty. It is filled with thoughts they haven't spoken, realizations they haven't admitted, truths they are not yet ready to confront. This is why this message found you now. Because you are standing at a spiritual intersection, a moment where awareness must come before reaction, a moment where understanding must come before emotion, a moment where you are being shown something not so you can act immediately but so you can see clearly. Have you noticed how lately certain people observe you more than they speak to you? Have you felt that shift? The way someone's energy lingers differently when you enter a room. The way their tone changes even slightly. The way their words feel measured, as if they are choosing them more carefully now. That is not your imagination. That is revelation beginning to surface. Archangel Michael is not bringing this to you to create confusion. He is bringing this to you to prepare you. Because when someone's perception changes before their words do, there is always a gap, and in that gap, truth is forming. But here's what you must understand right now. Not every realization is immediately confessed. Not every truth is instantly spoken. Some truths sit in silence first. And the person connected to this message, they are in that silence right now. They are watching. They are thinking. They are replaying moments in their mind. They are questioning their past judgments about you. But they have not spoken yet. And that is where this becomes deeper than you expected. Because what they haven't told you yet carries more weight than what they ever said before. This is why heaven interrupted your moment. This is why you were drawn here, right now, at this exact time. Because something is unfolding behind the scenes, something quiet, something internal, something powerful. And you were not meant to be unaware of it. But listen carefully, you are not being shown this so you can chase answers. You are not being shown this so you can confront anyone. You are not being shown this so you can demand clarity. You are being shown this so you can remain aligned. Because when truth begins to surface in others, your only responsibility is to stay rooted in who you have become. Archangel Michael's presence right now is firm, steady, protective. He is not asking you to move. He is not asking you to react. He's asking you to see. Because something has shifted. And this is only the beginning of what is about to be revealed. Type "I am aware" in the comments if you feel this message already speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 1717 is now activated. There was a time, not long ago, when they looked at you and saw limitation. Not because it was truly there, but because their vision could not stretch far enough to understand who you were becoming. They measured you by your past. They defined you by moments you had already outgrown. They placed you inside a version of yourself that felt comfortable to them, predictable to them, explainable to them. And in doing so, they missed something sacred unfolding right in front of their eyes. But something has changed. And you felt it before you understood it. Because perception does not always shift loudly. It rarely announces itself with grand confessions or dramatic apologies. No, it moves quietly at first, subtly, internally. It begins in the mind before it ever reaches the mouth. It begins in observation before it ever becomes conversation. In this person they have been observing you, watching you in ways they never did before. There was a moment, very specific, very real, when something you did, something you said, or even something you chose not to say disrupted their entire perception of you. It did not look significant on the surface. It may have even felt ordinary to you. But to them, it was undeniable. It challenged everything they thought they knew about you. And since that moment, they have not been able to see you the same way again. They are noticing your composure where they expected reaction. They are noticing your silence where they expected explanation. They are noticing your growth where they once assumed stagnation. And it is unsettling them, not in a negative way, but in a way that forces them to rethink everything they believed about you. This is the hidden shift. You see, when someone doubts you, they build a quiet narrative in their mind. A story about who you are, what you are capable of, and how far you can go. And they grow comfortable in that story. It gives them a sense of control. It keeps you within limits that make sense to them. But when you begin to outgrow that narrative, when your actions no longer match the version of you they created, something begins to break inside their understanding. And that break has already happened. They are no longer seeing the person they once doubted. They are seeing someone unfamiliar, someone composed, someone grounded, someone who does not respond the way they predicted, someone who has stepped into a quiet confidence that cannot be easily explained. And that is where their internal conflict begins. Because now, they are caught between two realities. The old version of you they held onto and the new version of you they cannot ignore. And the more they observe you, the more the old version fades. The more it becomes clear that they misjudged you, that they underestimated you, that they spoke or thought from a place of limited understanding. But here is the deeper truth. This realization has not yet become language. It is still forming. They are replaying past interactions in their mind, seeing them differently now. Moments where they dismissed you. Moments where they questioned you. Moments where they assumed something about you that no longer feels accurate. And this realization is not comfortable for them. Because to fully acknowledge who you are now, they would have to confront who they were then. And not everyone is ready for that kind of honesty. So instead, they remain in observation. They watch how you move. They pay attention to your energy. They notice how others respond to you now. They listen more carefully when you speak. They become more aware of your presence, even in silence. And while they may not say it, their behavior has already begun to shift. Have you noticed it? The slight hesitation before they speak, the subtle respect in their tone that wasn't there before, the way they seem more careful around you, as if they are recalibrating their approach. These are not random changes. These are signs of a perception being rewritten. Archangel Michael reveals that this shift is not temporary. It is not superficial. It is rooted in truth finally breaking through layers of assumption. And when someone truly sees you, they cannot unsee you. But this is where you must remain grounded, because their changed perception is not your responsibility to manage. You are not here to confirm it. You are not here to explain it. You are not here to accelerate their understanding or make it easier for them to process. You are here to continue being who you have become. Because the power of this moment is not in what they are realizing. It is in the fact that you did not need their validation to become this version of yourself. And that is what unsettles them the most. You grew without their approval. You evolved without their agreement. You stepped into alignment without their recognition. And now, they are witnessing the result of that. So let them observe. Let them process. Let them sit in the silence of their own realization. Because this shift was never about proving anything to them. It was about becoming everything you were always meant to be. And now they are finally seeing it. Type "I am transformed" in the comments if you feel this shift has already begun. Blessing code 2222 is now surrounding you. There is a kind of silence that most people misunderstand. It is not the absence of words. It is not distance. It is not indifference. It is something far deeper, far heavier, far more revealing. It is the silence that forms when truth rises within someone but they are not yet ready to release it. And that is exactly where this person is right now. You may have wondered why, despite the shift you feel, nothing has been openly said. Why no acknowledgement has come? Why no admission has surfaced? Why everything feels different yet remains unspoken? And the answer is not because they do not see you. It is because they see you more clearly than ever before, and that clarity has created something they are struggling to confront. Because what they would have to admit is not small. They would have to admit that they misjudged you. They would have to admit that they spoke too soon, thought too narrowly, assumed too quickly. They would have to revisit moments where they dismissed your vision, where they doubted your direction, where they reduced your potential to something manageable in their own understanding. And now, standing in the presence of who you have become, they feel the weight of that misjudgment pressing against their conscience. But admission requires humility. And humility, when it arrives through realization, is not always immediate. It takes time. It takes internal wrestling. It takes moments of quiet reflection where a person sits with their own thoughts and begins to recognize the truth they once resisted. And this person, they are in that process now. Your silence is not empty. It is active. They are thinking about conversations they had about you. They are remembering how they responded to you in certain moments. They are questioning their own perspective, asking themselves how they could have been so certain and yet so wrong. And this is where the tension builds within them. Because to speak now would mean to expose that internal shift. To say something would mean to acknowledge that their previous stance no longer holds. And that kind of admission requires them to step out of the version of themselves that once felt secure. So instead they remain quiet. But make no mistake, this silence is louder than anything they could say. It is in the way they pause before responding to you. It is in the way their energy softens when you are present. It is in the way they observe more than they contribute. It is in the way they seem to be searching for the right words and finding none that feel sufficient. This is not avoidance. This is internal confrontation. Archangel Michael reveals that what they are afraid to admit is not just that you have changed. It is that you have become something they did not anticipate, something they cannot easily categorize, something that challenges the limits they once placed on you. And this realization does something unexpected. It shifts the power dynamic. Because once someone recognizes that they underestimated you, they no longer approach you the same way. There is a recalibration that happens within them. A quiet awareness that you are not to be engaged with casually, not to be spoken to carelessly, not to be viewed through the same lens as before. But here is where it becomes even more profound. They are not just seeing your growth, they are seeing their own limitations reflected through it. And that reflection is uncomfortable. Because your transformation highlights what they have not yet confronted within themselves. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your stability challenges their uncertainty. Your evolution forces them to acknowledge that while you were moving forward, they may have remained in the same place. And this is why their silence carries hesitation. Not because they do not want to speak, but because they do not yet know how to speak from this new awareness. They are caught between what they used to believe about you and what they now know to be true. And until those two realities fully separate within them, their words will remain withheld. What you must understand something clearly. Your silence is not your signal to question yourself. It is not your invitation to seek validation. It is not your responsibility to create a space for their confession. You are not meant to pull truth out of them. You are meant to remain anchored in your own. Because what they are processing right now is part of their journey, not yours. And the more you remain grounded, the more their silence will continue to reveal what they cannot yet say. Archangel Michael stands firm in this moment, reminding you that not all truths are spoken immediately. Some truths must mature within a person before they can be expressed. And what is forming within them is still unfolding. But hear this with clarity. What they have not said does not diminish what they now see. And what they are afraid to admit will not remain hidden forever. Because truth, once realized, has a way of finding its voice. And when it does, it will carry a weight that cannot be denied. Type ISE the truth in the comments if this resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 3333 is now activated around your path. And as this truth settles into your spirit, understand this. What is being revealed through you is not just for you. Every time light exposes what was hidden, it creates a pathway for someone else to awaken. You are not just witnessing transformation. You are part of a divine chain reaction of revelation. Scripture declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." And right now, your awareness is a seed being planted into the lives of others who are still searching for clarity. If your spirit is moved in this moment, this is your invitation to act, not out of obligation, but out of obedience. When you release your support through super thanks or the PayPal link in the description or QR code, you are not giving to a platform. You are fueling a mission that reaches souls standing exactly where you once stood. I feel led to say this clearly. This is your moment to sow into light, while the heavens are open over your life. What you release now will echo beyond what you can see. Step forward and give. There is something you must understand now, something that will shift the way you interpret everything that has happened between you and this person. Their doubt, as real as it felt, as heavy as it may have been, was never truly about you. It wore your name and pointed in your direction. It may have even affected your emotions at the time. But at its core, it was not born from your limitations. It was born from theirs. And this is the moment where spiritual exposure begins. Because when someone doubts you, it often feels personal. It feels targeted. It feels like a reflection of your worth, your capability, your direction. But what Archangel Michael is revealing now is deeper than surface perception. He is showing you that their doubt was not rooted in who you are. It was rooted in what they could not understand, what they could not see, and what they could not believe was possible beyond their own frame of reference. You were operating from a place they had never reached. You were thinking in ways they had never considered. You were moving with a level of internal alignment they did not yet possess. And instead of expanding their understanding to meet you, they reduced their perception of you to fit their own limits. That is how doubt was formed. It was easier for them to question you than to question themselves. It was easier for them to assume you would remain the same than to accept that you were evolving beyond what they could predict. It was easier for them to stay comfortable in their own perspective than to stretch into a new awareness that required growth. So they labeled you. They categorized you. They placed you in a version of yourself that made sense to them. And for a time, it may have felt convincing. It may have even created moments where you questioned yourself, where you wondered if their perception held some truth. But what you did next is what changed everything. You did not stay there. You did not conform to that version. You did not shrink to maintain their comfort. Instead, you continued to grow, quietly, consistently, without needing their approval. And that is where the exposure began. Because growth has a way of revealing truth without confrontation. It does not argue. It does not defend. It simply becomes undeniable over time. And as you continued to evolve, their doubt began to lose its foundation. What they once believed about you no longer aligned with what they were seeing. What they once assumed about your limits no longer matched your actions. What they once spoke with certainty began to feel uncertain within their own mind. And now, they are facing something they cannot ignore, the realization that their doubt was misplaced. But this realization carries weight. Because to fully acknowledge that their doubt was not about you, they must confront the truth about themselves. They must recognize the limitations in their own thinking. They must see where fear, insecurity, where misunderstanding shaped their perception. They must admit that they projected their own boundaries onto you. And that is not easy. That kind of exposure does not happen outwardly at first. It happens internally, quietly, gradually. It shows up in moments where they pause and reflect. It shows up in the discomfort they feel when they compare what they believed to what they now see. It shows up in the silence that follows their realization that they were operating from a limited view. Archangel Michael reveals that this is not punishment for them. It is awakening. But awakening often begins with discomfort. Because when truth enters a space where assumption once lived, something has to shift. Something has to be released. Something has to be redefined. And right now, they are in the process of redefining their understanding, not just of you, but of themselves. And here is where you must remain clear. Their doubt did not delay your destiny. Their perception did not define your path. Their limitations did not limit your outcome. What you are seeing now is simply the correction of a misunderstanding that never had the authority to shape your reality. But it did have the ability to reveal something important. It revealed your resilience. It revealed your ability to continue forward without validation. It revealed your capacity to trust your own growth even when others could not see it. And that is why this moment is not about them catching up to who you are. It is about you recognizing that you were always aligned, even when they were not. Archangel Michael stands with clarity in this moment, reminding you that exposure is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it unfolds through realization rather than confrontation. Sometimes it happens within a person long before it is ever expressed outwardly. And that is exactly what is happening now. Their doubt is being exposed, not through your words, not through your defense, but through your transformation. And once that exposure is complete, it cannot be undone. Because truth, once revealed, does not return to ignorance. It remains. It settles. It reshapes everything that comes after it. And now they are standing in that truth, whether they speak it or not. Type I was never the problem in the comments if you receive this truth. Lesson code 4444 is now activated around your spirit. There is always a moment, a precise, undeniable moment, when perception shifts from assumption to awareness. It does not arrive with noise. It does not announce itself with certainty at first, but it lands deeply, quietly, permanently. And for this person, that moment has already happened. They may not speak about it. They may not even fully understand it yet. But there was a turning point, a moment where something no longer aligned with what they once believed about you. It could have been something simple, something that seemed small from your perspective, a response you gave, a decision you made, a situation where you remained calm when they expected you to react. Or perhaps it was something bigger, an outcome, a result, a visible shift in your life that they could no longer dismiss or explain away. Whatever it was, it broke the illusion they had created. Because up until that moment, their doubt had structure. It had reasoning. It had the narrative they could rely on. But when that moment occurred, that structure cracked. That narrative weakened. And for the first time, they were forced to confront a possibility they had resisted, that they were wrong about you. And that realization did not feel light. It felt heavy. Because when someone recognizes that they misjudged you, they do not just see you differently, they see themselves differently. They begin to question their own discernment, your own assumptions, your own confidence in how they read people and situations. And that kind of internal shift is not easy to process. So they did what most people do when faced with a sudden truth. They paused. They stepped back internally. They began observing instead of assuming. And from that moment forward, everything you did began to carry a different weight in their mind. They started noticing details they once overlooked. They started interpreting your actions with more depth. They started questioning their past conclusions. And slowly, without speaking it out loud, they began reconstructing their understanding of you. This is the turning point Archangel Michael is revealing. Not the moment they speak to you, not the moment they admit anything outwardly, but the moment inside them where doubt lost its authority. Because once doubt is broken internally, it cannot regain the same power. It may linger in fragments. It may attempt to justify itself, but it no longer holds control over perception. And that is where they are now, caught in the aftermath of their own realization, trying to reconcile who they thought you were with who you have shown yourself to be. And this reconciliation is not instant. It is a process. They are revisiting past conversations in their mind, hearing them differently now. They are recalling moments where they dismissed you and feeling a subtle discomfort in doing so. They are recognizing patterns in your behavior that now make sense, but did not align with their previous assumptions. And this internal replay is not something they can easily escape, because truth has a way of repeating itself in the mind until it is fully acknowledged. Archangel Michael reveals that this turning point was necessary, not for your validation, but for their awakening. Because there are people who only learn through contrast, through the undeniable difference between what they believe and what is real. And you became that contrast for them. Your growth became the evidence they could not ignore. Your consistency became the proof they could not deny. Your transformation became the mirror they could not look away from. And now, they are standing in a position they did not expect to be in, recognizing value where they once saw limitation. But here is what you must understand in this moment. Their realization does not change your path. It does not accelerate your purpose. It does not define your worth. It simply aligns their perception with a truth that has already been established. You did not become who you are because they realized it. You became who you are because you stayed aligned, regardless of what they believe. And that is why this moment carries quiet power. Because while they are processing this turning point, you have already moved beyond it. You are not waiting for their understanding. You are not dependent on their acknowledgement. You are not seeking closure from their realization. You are continuing forward, grounded in what you already know about yourself. And this is what creates the final shift in their awareness. Because as they begin to see you clearly, they also begin to realize something else. You are no longer affected by their perception in the way you once might have been. You are not reacting. You are not adjusting. You are not trying to prove anything. You are simply being. And that presence, calm, certain, unshaken, is what confirms their realization even further. Because truth does not need reinforcement. It reveals itself through consistency. Archangel Michael stands in this moment with clarity, reminding you that every turning point in someone else's perception is simply a reflection of what has already been established in reality. And now, that reality is undeniable. They see it, even if they have not yet said it. Type "I need no validation" in the comments if you stand in this truth. Lesson code 5555 is now activated around your life. There is something forming beneath the surface, something they carried but have not released, something they recognize but have not confessed, something they feel but have not yet found the courage to express. And this is the unspoken truth. Because while their perception has shifted, while their doubt has weakened, while their awareness has deepened, there is still a part of this transformation that remains hidden within them. They have not told you everything, not because there is nothing to say, but because what they would have to say carries weight they are not yet ready to hold in your presence. Archangel Michael reveals that the truth they are withholding is not simple acknowledgement. It is not just, "I see you differently now." It goes deeper than that. It reaches into places they have avoided within themselves. It touches on emotions they did not expect to feel. It exposes realizations they cannot easily dismiss. They are not just realizing that they were wrong. They are realizing how wrong they were. And that distinction matters. Because surface-level awareness is easy to admit. But deeper realization, the kind that challenges pride, that confronts ego, that exposes misjudgment, requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is something they are still navigating. There is a quiet tension within them right now. A conversation they have had with themselves many times but have not had with you. They have thought about what they would say if they were honest. They have imagined the moment where they acknowledge everything. They have rehearsed words internally, phrases that begin with recognition, that move toward accountability, that attempt to express what has shifted. But every time they reach that point internally, something holds them back. And that something is not confusion. It is fear. Not fear of you, but fear of what their truth reveals about them. Because to speak honestly now would require them to admit that they misread you when you were already moving in alignment. That they doubted you when you were already certain. That they may have contributed, even subtly, to moments where you felt unseen or misunderstood. And this realization does not sit lightly. It presses on their conscience. It creates hesitation in their actions. It introduces a level of self-awareness they did not previously carry. And so they remain in silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because what they need to say requires a level of honesty they are still building the strength to express. But here is where this becomes even more layered. The unspoken truth is not only about their past perception, it is also about their present recognition. Because as they see you now, clearly, fully, without distortion, they are beginning to recognize something they did not expect. Value. Not the kind of value that is easily spoken or casually acknowledged, but a deeper recognition of who you are, what you carry, and what your presence represents. And this recognition has shifted something in them. They are not engaging with you the same way because they cannot. They are not approaching you casually because they now understand that you are not casual. They are not speaking impulsively because they are aware that their words carry more weight now than before. And within this awareness, something else is formed, something they have not expressed, something they may not even fully understand yet. Respect. A quiet, undeniable respect that has replaced their earlier doubt. But even this they have not said, because to express respect now would require them to acknowledge the absence of it before. And again, that brings them back to the same internal confrontation. So they stay where they are, observant, silent. But you must understand something clearly. What remains unspoken does not mean it is unreal. Silence does not erase truth. It often protects it until the moment it can be expressed fully. Archangel Michael reveals that this unspoken truth is still forming its voice. It is moving through layers of realization within them. It is gaining clarity as they continue to observe you. It is strengthening each time they witness your consistency, your composure, your alignment. And eventually it will reach a point where it cannot remain unspoken any longer. Because truth, when fully realized, seeks expression. But until that moment arrives, your role remains unchanged. You are not meant to extract this truth from them. You are not meant to question their silence. You are not meant to create space for their confession. You are meant to remain in your position, grounded, aware, unaffected. Because the power of this moment is not in what they will say. It is in what you already know. You know who you are. You know how you have grown. You know what you carry. And that knowing does not require confirmation, and does not depend on a mission. It does not wait for acknowledgement. It stands on its own. And that is what gives this entire situation its quiet authority. Because while they are still finding the courage to speak, you have already found the clarity to stand. Archangel Michael stands with you in this awareness, reminding you that not all truths are meant to be heard immediately. Some truths must first be realized, then accepted, then understood before they can be spoken with authenticity. And that is exactly where they are now. Holding a truth they cannot deny. Carrying a realization they cannot ignore. Standing in awareness they cannot yet express. But soon they will. Type "I trust what is unseen" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6666 is now activated around your path. There is a reason. This awareness did not come to you earlier. There is a reason their perception did not shift months ago. There is a reason their realization did not align with your growth when it first began. And most importantly, there is a reason you are seeing this now, at this exact moment, not before, not later, but now. Because this is divine timing. And divine timing does not operate on human expectation. It does not move according to convenience, emotion, or desire. It moves with precision, lining people, awareness, and revelation at the exact point where it will have the greatest impact, not just on what is happening around you, but on what is forming within you. Archangel Michael reveals that if this shift had happened earlier, it would not have served you the same way. Because earlier you may have still been seeking their validation. Earlier you may have still been influenced by their perception. Earlier their acknowledgement might have affected your decisions, your direction, or your confidence in ways that would have altered your path. But now, you stand in a different position. Now, you are grounded in your own awareness. Now, you are established in your own growth. Now, you are no longer looking outward for confirmation of what you already know within. And that is why this revelation is arriving now. Because you are finally in a place where their change of perception cannot define you. It can only reflect what has already been established. This timing protects you. It ensures that their realization does not become your motivation. It ensures that their acknowledgement does not become your foundation. It ensures that your identity remains rooted in your own alignment, not in their recognition. And this is where divine timing reveals its deeper purpose. It is not just about when they see you. It is about when you are ready to witness their realization without being moved by it. Because there is a difference between being seen and being affected by being seen. And you have reached the point where you can be seen without shifting your position. This is why Archangel Michael brings your attention to this moment. Because something is aligning, not just within them, but around you. There are subtle changes happening in your environment. Conversations are shifting. Energy is adjusting. Dynamics that once felt fixed are beginning to move. And this person's realization is part of that larger alignment. But it is not the center of it. You are. Your growth. Your consistency. Your ability to remain unchanged by external perception. That is what has created the conditions for this shift to occur. And now, divine timing is allowing you to see it. Not so you can respond, but so you can understand the position you are in. Because you are no longer in the phase of becoming. You are in the phase of being. And when you reach this phase, things around you begin to recalibrate naturally. People begin to see you differently. Situations begin to unfold differently. Opportunities begin to present themselves differently. Not because you are forcing change, but because your presence has shifted. And this person, they are simply one reflection of that shift. But there is something else you must recognize. Divine timing does not only reveal, it prepares. And what you are being shown now is not just about closure or understanding. It is about positioning. Because when someone begins to see you clearly after a period of doubt, it creates a new dynamic. A dynamic where their words, their actions, and their presence will begin to align differently. And you must be ready for that. Not emotionally, not reactively, but with clarity. Because just as their perception has changed, their behavior will eventually follow. And when it does, you will need to remain anchored in who you are now, not who you were when they doubted you. This is why timing matters. Because if this shift had happened before your transformation was complete, you might have responded from an older version of yourself. But now, you are positioned to respond, if needed, from a place of stability, awareness, and control. Or to not respond at all. And that is power. Archangel Michael stands in this moment, reminding you that everything unfolding right now is part of a larger orchestration. Nothing is out of place. Nothing is delayed. Nothing is premature. Everything is aligning exactly as it should. And this revelation, this awareness of their changed perception, is simply one piece of that alignment. But it is an important one. Because it confirms something you must never forget. You did not need to be seen to become who you are. But now that you are who you are, you will be seen. And the timing of that visibility is no longer in your hands. It is in alignment with something far greater. So remain still. Remain grounded. Remain aware. Because what is unfolding now is not random. It is precise. And you are exactly where you are meant to be. Type "I trust divine timing" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7777 is now activated around your life. There is a battle happening within them right now, one that has nothing to do with appearances, nothing to do with what they show outwardly, and everything to do with what they are processing internally. And this battle is not simple, because when perception shifts as deeply as it has for them, it does not create instant peace. It creates conflict. A quiet, persistent conflict that moves beneath their surface, shaping their thoughts, influencing their emotions, and challenging the version of themselves they once felt secure in. Archangel Michael reveals that this person is no longer comfortable in their previous stance toward you. The position they once held, where doubt felt justified, where judgment felt certain, where their understanding felt complete, has been disrupted, and now they are standing in unfamiliar territory. They cannot return to what they believed before, but they have not yet fully stepped into what they now know. And this in-between space is where their inner conflict lives. They are questioning themselves in ways they did not expect. They are asking silent questions they cannot voice out loud. How did they misread you so completely? How did they overlook what now seems so obvious? Why did they hold on to a version of you that no longer exists, or perhaps never truly existed at all? These questions do not come with immediate answers. They linger. They echo. They repeat in moments when they are alone, when they are quiet, when they are not distracted by external noise. And in those moments, something deeper surfaces, something they may not even want to fully acknowledge. Regret. Not loud regret. Not expressive regret. But a quiet awareness that they may have misunderstood you in ways that mattered. That they may have formed conclusions too early. That they may have contributed to a dynamic that no longer reflects the truth of who you are. And this realization creates pressure. Because regret often seeks resolution. It seeks expression. It seeks correction. But before any of that can happen, it must first be accepted. And that is where their struggle intensifies. Because accepting regret requires honesty with oneself. It requires looking at past actions, past thoughts, past assumptions, and recognizing where they were limited, where they were inaccurate, where they were influenced by something other than truth. And not everyone moves through that process quickly. So they hesitate. They observe you more closely now, almost as if they are trying to gather enough understanding to confirm what they are beginning to feel. They watch your consistency. They notice your stability. They pay attention to how you carry yourself, how you respond, how you move through situations. And the more they observe, the more their internal conflict deepens. Because everything they see now reinforces what they are beginning to accept. That you are not who they thought you were. And that realization does not just change how they see you. It changes how they see themselves in relation to you. They begin to feel a distance, not because you have created it, but because their previous understanding no longer fits the current reality. And in that distance, they are trying to recalibrate, trying to find a new way to approach you, trying to determine what is appropriate now, trying to understand how to move forward without fully confronting the past. And this creates hesitation in their behavior. They may seem more reserved, more careful, more measured in how they interact with you. Not because they are unsure of you, but because they are unsure of themselves. unsure of how to navigate this new awareness, unsure of how to bridge the gap between what was and what is now. Archangel Michael reveals that this inner conflict is necessary, because it is the space where transformation begins for them. Just as you went through your own process of growth, quietly, internally, without needing external validation, they are now entering their own process of realization. But their process looks different. It is not about becoming who they are meant to be. It is about understanding what they failed to see before. And that understanding takes time. It takes internal alignment. It takes a willingness to sit with discomfort long enough for clarity to emerge. And until that clarity is fully formed, their actions will reflect this tension. Moments of awareness followed by moments of silence. Moments of recognition followed by moments of hesitation. Moments where they seem close to saying something and then choose not to. But you must remain grounded in this truth. Their internal conflict is not yours to resolve. You are not meant to guide them through it. You are not meant to create comfort for their realization. You are not meant to adjust your position to make their process easier. You are meant to remain steady, because your steadiness is what allows their conflict to unfold naturally. Your consistency is what gives their realization something real to anchor to. And your silence, your choice not to interfere, is what gives them the space to reach their own understanding. Archangel Michael stands firm in this moment, reminding you that transformation in others often begins with discomfort. And what they are experiencing now is the beginning of that transformation. A quiet, internal shift that cannot be rushed. A realization that cannot be undone. A conflict that will eventually lead to clarity. But until that clarity arrives, they will remain where they are, processing, observing, struggling silently with a truth they can no longer ignore. Type "I remain steady" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8888 is now activated around your spirit. As this revelation deepens within you, understand that what you are receiving is not just insight. It is divine light meant to reach beyond you. Every moment of clarity you experience becomes a seed planted into someone else's darkness, guiding them toward awakening. The word declares, "A generous soul will prosper, and whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." And this is not just scripture. It is a living promise speaking directly to you now. I feel led to say this clearly. When you act in this moment, you are not giving to a channel. You are participating in a divine assignment that restores vision to those who feel unseen. If your spirit is stirred, step forward in obedience and release your support through super thanks or the PayPal link in the description or QR code. This is not a delay moment. This is a prophetic moment of action. What you sow now becomes a river of truth flowing into lives that need it. Move now and give. There is a reason they can no longer define you the way they once did. There is a reason their words hesitate, their assumptions collapse, and their certainty dissolves when they try to place you back into the version of yourself they used to believe in. It is because that version no longer exists. You did not just change. You transformed. And transformation, real transformation, does not ask for permission. It does not announce itself loudly. It does not seek validation while it is unfolding. It happens quietly, internally, layer by layer, until one day the difference is undeniable, not just to you, but to everyone who once thought they understood you. Archangel Michael reveals that your transformation did not begin when they noticed it. It began long before that, when you made a decision, consciously or unconsciously, to stop operating from the same patterns, the same reactions, the same limitations that once defined your behavior. You started choosing differently. You started responding differently. You started thinking with clarity where confusion once lived. And most importantly, you started standing in your own awareness without needing others to confirm it. But here is what makes your transformation so powerful. It was not performed for an audience. It was not done to prove anyone wrong. It was not driven by the need to be seen. It was driven by alignment. You grew because something within you refused to stay the same. You evolved because you recognized that who you were becoming required you to release who you had been. And in doing so, you moved into a space that is unfamiliar to those who only knew your past. That is why they cannot recognize you the same way, because they are still referencing a version of you that no longer exists. They remember how you used to respond. They remember how you used to engage. They remember how you used to carry yourself in certain situations. But when they look at you now, none of those references apply, and this creates a disconnect in their perception. They try to understand you through memory, but you are no longer aligned with that memory. They try to anticipate your behavior, but your behavior no longer follows old patterns. They try to interpret your silence, but your silence now carries intention, not uncertainty. And this is what makes you unrecognizable to them. Not because you have become distant, not because you have become different in a superficial way, but because you have become consistent in a deeper truth they had never seen before. Archangel Michael reveals that your transformation has shifted your energy in a way that cannot be ignored. There is a steadiness in you now, a calmness that is not passive but intentional, a clarity that does not need to be explained, a presence that does not seek attention, yet commands awareness. And this presence is what they are responding to, even if they do not fully understand it. Because transformation is not just seen, it is felt. It is felt in the way you enter a space. It is felt in the way you hold your ground without resistance. It is felt in the way you choose silence over unnecessary reaction. And these shifts, while subtle to you, are significant to them, because they cannot find the version of you they once interacted with. And without that reference, they are forced to confront the reality of who you are now. But here is what you must understand. Your transformation was not meant to be understood by everyone. It was meant to be lived by you. You were not called to remain recognizable to those who only saw your earlier stages. You were called to evolve beyond those stages, even if it meant becoming unfamiliar to those who stayed the same. And that is exactly what has happened. You have outgrown the lens through which they once viewed you. You have stepped beyond the expectations they once placed on you. You have become aligned with a version of yourself that does not require explanation. And now, they are standing in the presence of that version, trying to make sense of it, trying to understand it, trying to reconcile it with what they once believed. But the truth is they cannot fully understand it. Not yet. Because transformation is only fully understood by those who have experienced it themselves. And until they reach that level of awareness, they will continue to observe you with a mixture of recognition and confusion. Recognition of your presence, confusion of your evolution. But none of that changes what is already established. You are no longer who you were, and you are not going back to who they thought you were. You are standing in who you have become. And that is what makes this moment so powerful. Because while they are still adjusting their perception, you have already anchored your identity. Archangel Michael stands with certainty in this moment, reminding you that transformation is not about being accepted, it is about being aligned. And alignment does not require recognition. It simply requires truth. And you are standing in it. Type "I have evolved" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9999 is now activated around your path. There is a moment in every transformation where everything you have become is quietly tested, not through confrontation, not through obvious challenge, but through subtle opportunity. An opportunity to react, to respond, to step back into an old version of yourself without even realizing it. And this is that moment for you. Because now that you see what is happening, now that you are aware of their shift, their silence, their internal struggle, there is a natural pull to do something with that awareness, to question it, to respond to it, to acknowledge it in some way. But Archangel Michael steps forward with clarity and authority, saying this: you must not react yet. Not because your reaction would be wrong, but because your restraint is powerful. You are being tested, not in your strength but in your stillness. Because anyone can respond when truth becomes visible. Anyone can speak when awareness arrives. But not everyone can remain grounded in silence when they finally see what they once questioned. And that is the level you are being called into now. This is not about ignoring what you feel. This is not about suppressing your awareness. This is about mastering your response. Because the moment you react prematurely, you shift the energy of what is unfolding. You interrupt a process that is still forming. You step into a space that is not yet ready for interaction. And more importantly, you risk responding from a place that is no longer aligned with who you are now. Archangel Michael reveals that this moment is not about them. It is about you holding your position. Because when someone begins to see you differently, there is often a subtle shift in behavior that invites engagement. A look that lingers longer. A tone that softens. A conversation that feels slightly different. And within those moments, there is an opening, a space where you could step in, acknowledge the shift, or even try to understand it more deeply. But that opening is the test. Because not every opening is an invitation. Some openings are simply moments where you are meant to observe, not participate. And this is one of those moments. You are being asked to remain still, not out of passivity, but out of control. Because your stillness right now is doing something powerful. It is allowing their realization to fully develop without interference. It is giving their internal process the space it needs to reach clarity. It is ensuring that when truth finally surfaces from them, it is complete, not influenced, not guided, not shaped by your involvement. And this matters more than you may realize. Because if you step in too early, you change the dynamic. You move from being the one who is seen to the one who is seeking. And that is not your position anymore. You are not here to seek understanding from them. You are here to hold your alignment. Archangel Michael makes this clear. This is a test of discipline. A test of whether you can remain grounded in your growth without needing to act on every awareness that comes to you. A test of whether you can trust the process enough to let it unfold without interference. A test of whether you truly believe that what is meant to be revealed will be revealed in its own time. Because there is something else happening beneath the surface. Their awareness is still forming into expression. Their internal conflict is still moving toward clarity. And if you remain still, if you do not react, if you allow this process to complete itself, what eventually comes forward will carry a different weight. You will be authentic. It will be unforced. It will be undeniable. But if you interrupt that process, you risk receiving something incomplete, something uncertain, something that has not fully formed, and that does not serve you. You have already moved beyond uncertainty. You have already established your clarity. You have already stepped into a version of yourself that does not require partial truth. So do not step back into a space where you accept it. This is why restraint is necessary. Not forever, but for now. Because timing, once again, is everything. And your ability to remain steady in this moment is what ensures that what comes next aligns with truth, not assumption, not pressure, not reaction. Archangel Michael stands firm beside you, reminding you that power is not always expressed through action. Sometimes, power is expressed through stillness, through the ability to see everything clearly and choose not to move until the moment is right. And that is what you are being called to do now. To remain, to observe, to trust. Because what is unfolding does not require your reaction. It requires your presence. And your presence, calm, grounded, unwavering, is already speaking louder than any response you could give. So stay where you are. Not physically, but internally. Stay aligned. Stay aware. Stay unmoved. Because this moment is not about what you do. It is about what you do not do. And that is what defines your next level. Type "I choose stillness" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activated around your spirit. There is something greater unfolding beneath everything you have seen so far. This is not just about their perception changing. This is not just about their silence, their realization, or their internal conflict. All of these are pieces, but they are not the full picture. Because heaven is not only revealing something to you, heaven is positioning you. Archangel Michael makes this clear now. What you are experiencing is part of a larger strategy, a divine alignment that is preparing you for what comes next. And what comes next will require a version of you that is fully grounded, fully aware, and completely unmoved by external validation. That is why everything up to this moment has unfolded the way it has. You were allowed to grow without recognition so you would not become dependent on it. You were allowed to be doubted so you could develop certainty within yourself. You were allowed to evolve in silence so your identity would be rooted internally, not externally. And now, as recognition begins to surface around you, you are being tested in whether you can remain the same. Because what is coming next is not just about being seen. It is about being trusted with what comes when you are seen. Archangel Michael reveals that there are shifts approaching in your environment, opportunities, conversations, and openings that will require discernment. Not every door that opens will be aligned. Not every voice that speaks will carry truth. Not every person who now sees you clearly will know how to engage with you correctly. And this is where heaven's strategy becomes precise. You are being trained to observe without attachment, to recognize without reacting, to discern without immediately engaging. Because the next phase of your journey requires clarity at a level you have not operated from before. There will be moments where people approach you differently. Moments where respect replaces doubt. Moments where acknowledgement replaces silence. Moments where you are given space, opportunity, or attention that was not present before. And in those moments, you must not lose your grounding. Because recognition can be just as distracting as doubt. And Archangel Michael is preparing you to move through both without being influenced by either. This is the strategy. To bring you into a place where your identity is so stable that no external shift, positive or negative, alters your internal alignment. Because once you reach that level, you move differently. You make decisions from clarity, not emotion. You engage from awareness, not reaction. You accept what is aligned and release what is not, without hesitation, without overthinking, without confusion. And that is the level you are being prepared for now. But there is something even deeper within this preparation. Archangel Michael reveals that not everything that is coming will be immediate. Some things will unfold gradually. Some conversations will take time to surface. Some truths will reveal themselves in layers. And within this unfolding, patience becomes essential. Because heaven is not rushing this process. Everything is being aligned with precision. Every shift in perception, every moment of realization, every opportunity that approaches you, it is all part of a sequence. And your role is not to force that sequence forward. Your role is to remain aligned within it. To trust that what is meant to come will come. To trust that what is meant to be revealed will be revealed. To trust that what is meant for you will not require you to chase it. This is what separates this next phase from everything that came before. Before, you were becoming. Now, you are being positioned. Before, you were building. Now, you are being placed. And placement requires stability. It requires clarity. It requires a level of self-trust that does not waver when external conditions shift. This is why Archangel Michael hath been guiding you to stillness, to awareness, to restraint. Because these are not just temporary instructions. They are foundational qualities for where you are going next. And where you are going next requires you to trust yourself completely. Not partially, not conditionally, but fully. To know when to move and when to remain still. To know when to speak and when to remain silent. To know when something is aligned and when it only appears to be. This is the strategy. Not just to reveal something to you, but to prepare you for everything that follows. And now, you are standing at the threshold of that preparation. Everything you have experienced, every moment of doubt, every phase of growth, every shift in awareness, it has all led to this point. A point where you are no longer reacting to what happens around you. You are moving with clarity through it. And that is what changes everything. Archangel Michael stands with certainty in this moment, reminding you that what is coming next is not something you need to fear or anticipate with anxiety. It is something you are already prepared for, because the work has already been done within you. Now it is simply about walking in it. Type "I am ready for what's next" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activated around your path. There comes a moment when everything that has been forming in silence reaches its point of release. A moment where what was hidden internally can no longer remain contained. A moment where truth, having matured through observation, conflict, and realization, finds its voice. That moment is approaching. Archangel Michael stands with unwavering certainty now, revealing that what has been unspoken will not remain that way forever. What they have been holding within, the realization, the recognition, the truth they have not yet admitted, it is building toward expression. But this expression will not come in the way you might expect. It will not be rushed. It will not be perfectly structured. And it will not be delivered from the same mindset that once doubted you. Because when truth finally surfaces after being resisted, it carries weight. It carries hesitation. It carries the imprint of everything that had to be processed before it could be spoken. And this is where the final revelation unfolds. They are going to speak. Not necessarily today. Not necessarily in the exact moment you anticipate. But the silence you have been witnessing is not permanent. It is temporary. It is the space where truth gathers strength before it is released. And when it is released, it will confirm everything you already sensed. Everything you already knew. Everything you already became without needing their acknowledgement. Well, here is where your role becomes critical. Because when that moment arrives, when they speak, when they reveal, when they finally express what has been forming within them, you will be faced with a choice. Not a loud choice. Not an obvious one. But a deeply internal decision. Will you respond from who you are now or from who you used to be? Because their words, no matter how sincere, will carry echoes of the past. not intentionally but naturally. And in hearing them, there may be a moment where your mind recalls what once was, a moment where your emotions recognize the history behind their realization, and that is where your awareness must remain strong. You are not meeting them in the past. You are meeting them from your present, from your clarity, from your alignment, from your transformation. Archangel Michael makes this clear. You are not being brought to this moment to revisit old versions of yourself. You are being brought here to stand in your current truth, regardless of what is said, because what they reveal does not change who you are. It simply confirms it. And this is why everything leading up to this moment was necessary. The silence, a shift, the inner conflict, the unspoken truth. All of it has been preparing both of you for this point, but from very different positions. They are arriving at understanding. You are standing in it. They are finding clarity. You are already aligned with it. They are moving toward truth. You are already anchored in it. And this difference matters, because it defines how this final revelation will unfold, not externally, but internally within you. You will not feel the need to prove anything. You will not feel the need to explain anything. You will not feel the need to revisit what has already been outgrown. You will simply see it for what it is. A confirmation, not a validation, a reflection, not a definition, a moment, not a foundation. And once you understand this, something within you will settle completely, because you will realize that this entire experience was never about waiting for them to see you. It was about you becoming someone who no longer needed to be seen to know who you are. And now that you are that person, everything around you is adjusting to reflect it. Archangel Michael stands beside you in this final moment, reminding you that what is about to be revealed is not something to fear, not something to overanalyze, not something to react to impulsively. It is something to witness, calmly, clearly, completely, because this is not the beginning of something uncertain. This is the closing of something that has already served its purpose, and the opening of something that aligns with who you are now. So remain grounded, remain aware, remain exactly as you are. Because when truth finally speaks, you will not need to respond with effort. Your presence alone will be enough. And that is the final revelation. Type "I stand in my truth" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activated around your life. As this final revelation settles into your spirit, understand this: what has just unfolded through you is not just a message, it is a movement of light. Every truth you receive today is a seed meant to reach another soul standing in confusion, waiting for clarity to find them. The word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days," and this is your moment to release what heaven has placed in your hands. I feel this deeply. When you give now, you are not supporting a channel. You are igniting a chain of awakening that reaches hearts across the world. This is your first-person moment. I step forward and sow into this mission because I know God is using it to reach lives. Do not delay this act. This is a prophetic response, a divine alignment between your obedience and heaven's assignment. As you give through Super Thanks or the PayPal link in the description or QR code, I declare that what you release will return multiplied in clarity, favor, and divine connection. Move now and give.